up and can Gay or Jordan, if you can post something out there like we're going live or are live, and then everybody kind of grabs it and retweets, that'd be awesome too.
Yeah, as soon as I have a link for the YouTube, I'll shoot it out.
Right on.
Got it.
Dude, this picture of Gabe with the Bitcoin Veterans t-shirt on is fantastic.
That's the first dish.
Who even got that picture?
What?
How did they get that? Is that on your profile somewhere?
What did I miss?
Yeah,
Where is this?
I don't even know where
in
that
the,
is.
It's in the.
It's coming up. We're going to share this with everybody. This is brilliant.
I don't know where that came from.
Some of the stuff that's coming through on Bitcoin Veterans, man. That's the chat to be in. That thing is happening, man.
Dude, I can't keep up. It's impossible to keep up with these guys.
It's a lively group.
But
nothing's impossible.
Hey, holy cow. Gandalf is a baby right there.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the big moment, man. That was the first edition of the Bitcoin Veterans t-shirt.
I like it.
And
yeah, I think that should be wherever we're selling this thing eventually. That should be the model picture for the shirt.
I haven't seen a tie-dye t-shirt in like decades.
Yeah.
I kind of like the idea here, fellas. I'm not saying everybody's hippies or anything. I might be, but yeah.
You can be a hippie and a fucking badass. Like, this is fucking 2023, okay? If you can have a dick and be a woman, then you can be a fucking hippie and a badass.
So maybe we don't want to draw that conclusion, but sure.
I identify as a hippie. What are you gonna do? What do you got for me?
Come at me, bro.
Yeah, let's have it. Yeah, so I've gone back and I've listened to some of this stuff just for quality and all that fun stuff, and it appears to me that when I use the sounds on this Rodecaster Pro, like I'm the only one that can hear it. There are times when I'm literally throwing this on, so it's the indication of the beginning of the show, and you can kind of maybe hear it on the show, but I hear it just like, this is rocking, and I keep turning it up, thinking you guys are going to stop talking over it. No fucking way.
One, it's not loud enough. Two, we would still keep talking.
It would happen anyway.
Oh, we would definitely still keep talking.
Especially me and Mike. We'd just be like.
This is something that I have always had as far as like, you can call it a problem. Like all through elementary school, I was routinely sent to the principal's office, not for like picking on people. It was because I was talking when the teacher was talking.
It's because you're a great communicator.
I always got in trouble for the same thing, and my daughter got in trouble for it yesterday, like her first day back to school.
Yes.
I was
leading the way.
It's just fucking bred into you. There's no changing it.
There's nothing you can do.
Genetic.
Epigenetic.
So if I ever annoy you guys with it, just realize there's nothing I can do about it. It's just genetics, okay? Sorry. I can talk to God.
I was born this way. I identify as
I was born this
annoying
way.
Talker.
I am biologically an annoying talker. It's not that I try not to identify as one, but I have to accept reality.
We're not going to try to change it.
We haven't even started yet. We're already kicked off of YouTube.
No, it's 7:00. So
we haven't corrected pronouns yet, so I think we're good.
There hasn't been enough reach yet. That's what it is.
Yeah.
No, seriously.
What are you saying?
There's going to come a time when I have realistic expectations about, like, we just started this thing, and as it grows, eventually it's going to reach somebody who's touched deeply by the way we communicate.
Are we talking like philosophically touched, or like grabbing the doll model touched?
Catholic school touched.
Oh,
where did Bitcoin Veterans touch you?
Yeah.
Show me on the doll where Bitcoin Veterans touched you.
Put that on the t-shirt, Coin Father.
Yeah. And then they're gonna complain like little babies.
Is this like a healthy touch, or is this like a Joe Biden touch?
And that's where we
Depends
double
on the
down
person.
And triple down and don't back up and smack him in the face gently, but not I guess metaphorically. Yes, metaphorically.
This is where we can use the getting reported or whatever as the actual badge of honor, instead of all the morons on Twitter. They're like, "Oh, this account blocked me. I'm so cool now." It's like, no, dude, that's not a badge of honor. Like, I don't know what you're bragging about, but getting kicked off of YouTube or something because we were talking about some real shit. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, we'll be up on Noster before you know it. Once I crack that nut, man, it is it's game on. So, ladies and gents, welcome to Bitcoin Veterans. This episode is the woke military. We're going to discuss a lot of things today and see just how bad they've either fucked up or possibly done a little plotting behind the scenes. If you're conspiratorial, I don't know, maybe you go down that hole. But I am joined by Jordan. I am Mike Hobart. I've got Alex Stanzik and Gabe. Thanks, gentlemen, for being here once again. This is going to be our new time, 7 p.m. It sounds like, unless we
change it again next week.
We change it again.
And it is at our liberty to change it whenever we want, just so we're clear.
Yeah, absolutely. So tonight's episode, the woke military. This isn't anything new. I guess I've been witnessing this probably since I was in. I think the guys that came in before me were also witnessing it with Moms, what is it? Moms Across America and the rest of the other bullshit that was starting to happen. And, this is something I think that should concern more people, more Americans, more people around the world, probably, because if it's happening here, I guarantee you it happened in a lot of other countries probably prior to it happening here in America. So let's get started, man. Somebody introduced the I forgot who it was. Maybe it was Mike or maybe it was Jordan. But let me get in here to the sharing and start sharing. So this is Energy Secretary Granholm claims U.S. can learn from China on climate change. Exclusive interview from Fox News. I know that makes it that much more terrible. Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm engaged in multiple conversations with Chinese government's top energy officials days before the Biden administration announced it would tap the Strategic Petroleum Reserve to combat high gas prices in 2021. All right, who submitted this one, and what do you want to say about it?
I thought it was Jordan, but I think it was honestly me. This is just this is something that I know Alex and I specifically have ranted about multiple times in Cafe Bitcoin. It's just as simple as a very foolish strategy or tactic, not even getting into the conspiratorial side, but the whole point of the SPR is the strategic emphasis on strategic petroleum reserve in case, the worst of the worst were to happen and we had to rely on that reserve and our production capabilities were crippled. Now we've got it down to the point of where it hasn't been this low since the 80s. And I don't know about you guys, but are we using less oil than we were using in the 80s? Probably not. So it's just what the hell is going on? Who honestly is saying that this is intelligent action? I don't want to turn this into a 10-minute rant, but between you guys, what the hell could be going on?
Do it, Mike. Kill it.
You can't do it. No balls.
I'm sorry. I'm going to use the R word, and we're only 8 minutes in. We're not even 10 minutes in, but this is just retarded because we have okay. So as far as energy goes, we have renewables, right? We have solar and wind. We can't have them without oil. So before we even go down that conversation, if they really want to push this ESG bullshit, which they I don't know if you guys have been following along on LinkedIn, but S&P Global, which is a massive business intelligence platform, comparable to Bloomberg, they are dropping their ESG rating because it's just complete garbage. They're now identifying and accepting and admitting that. And if the environmental catastrophists and the ESG nonsense pushers, not having oil as far as a reserve and being capable of even producing the renewable energy projects that they're trying to push everywhere, it's just a self-defeating prophecy. And that's not even getting into the military strategic points of having oil reserves so that we could actually, be capable of sending a carrier fleet to where we need to. And like now there's nuance to that because there's specific weighted oils for specific products and the production of diesel and gasoline and whatnot. But like, I don't know if we could rant enough about how stupid all of this selling of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve has been over the last, 2 years? Like somebody else jumped in here.
Yeah. So I think you have to look at it from the political spectrum, is that they're trying to do it to drive down costs because so much more of the economic system runs on like whatever the price of energy is. So like one, they're trying to do it so like they can get an economic win at the pump, and also two, so that they can help bring down inflation. Really, like that's the goal.
That's actually something. That's a good point, Jordan. I didn't think about that. Like I wonder if there's a way to do the math on if all of this oil wasn't released from the SPR, where would the price of gasoline be?
There's definitely a way. Somebody knows how to do that. Otherwise, why would they have done it?
You ever but regardless of what, sorry, Alex, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, you ever seen those little Biden stickers on the gas pumps where he's pointing at the price? I did this. You can drive all over America and see those little stickers.
Doesn't matter where you're at.
It's hilarious, man.
Yeah. But I mean, regardless of doing, like, I'm sure somebody can go out and do the math, but you can just look at it. Obviously, if we pump in more oil into the system, it brings down prices, and not everyone, most people understand how the rest of the economy reacts to the prices of oil, because that's transportation costs for all these goods and services. If you want all your Amazon shit to get to you in 2 days, then the price needs to be lower for transporting that stuff. And the whole supply chain runs on that. Like that's the only thing kind of keeping the dollar alive, the petrodollar. So that is how they manipulate the price of it. And so like at the end of the day, it's just political. So I guess maybe the argument could be made like, well, it's strategic because we have to do this to maintain our power or whatever. But it's strategic for a political party. And it's not strategic for the nation.
It's short-term strategery. Like that's all it is. And I know people can troll me in the comments or whatever. I use the word strategery. It's not a real word. George Bush made it a real word, and it's my favorite word now.
It's a real word. You just didn't say it right. You got a strategery.
Yeah.
Strategize.
Mr. Bush, if you could describe the Afghan war or the Iraq war in one word, what would it be? Strategery. But so like the ridiculous thing though is that it's short-term strategery just to get to the point of attempting to like run for re-election again. Yeah. Beyond that moment, beyond whenever we like figure out who's president and then everybody starts arguing over the fact that it was a fraudulent election to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
From that point on, America is in a dramatically weaker position than we were prior to this most recent presidency. Because like the capability to react and defend ourselves is significantly hampered. And that's not even getting into the woke military as far as like, dropping all of the military, like the PT standards and whatnot. So it's less of like an American strategy, and it's more of a fiat bullshit system trying to maintain their last little grips of power on a flailing, like just regime. It's disgusting and it's pathetic.
I agree with that statement. Furthermore, I would like to add that there is one thing that we can be sure of behind their reasons and motivations for doing these types of things. It is not for our benefit, and it is for their benefit. And that being the case, I don't believe that anything that they are doing on this, in regards to this topic or any other topic, we should be viewing as something that they're doing because they want us to be better off, because that's simply not the case. And I mean, in addition to that, when we look at the way that we compete and or collaborate with other superpowers, if you will, in the world, I say we, I mean our government. I should specify that. The way that governments collaborate with one another and compete with one another, especially the most powerful and influential ones. I have to wonder when it comes to military power and projection of that power and true military, I guess, reality of threats, how much it's actually these other superpowers versus small factions and rogue actors that are the bigger threats. It's really not in any large country's best interest to go to war with another large country, and the likelihood of that happening, from my perspective anyway, and just based on what I've learned, is very low that would actually happen. They're all in bed together. They're doing business with one another. We all know they're having conversations behind conversations and multi-layered meetings. And I'm probably going to get us canceled right now, but I guess it doesn't matter. But it's for us to live the illusion that they don't have a larger plan, and that there is not a larger strategy that is being executed. It just wouldn't be realistic for us to see it any other way. That's my opinion. Feel free to disagree, but militarily, and I know we're going to transition into a little bit more of a focus on that here momentarily, but militarily, I don't see us going to war toe to toe across a battlefield with a large country, even with the things that are going on in Russia. I don't know. I'm not going in that direction right now, but I just can't see us doing that. Just given the massive amounts of ordnance and high powered weapons. Yeah. Well, plus the thing is, everyone has something to gain right now, and the fact is, with our country's government being in the situation that it is financially, which is dead ass broke and in debt to everybody else, it doesn't do them any good to be a threat to us militarily when they can just own us instead and then make us pay and in effect be slaves to them while still perpetrating an illusion that we're not, that we're a land of free, home of brave, and all that other stuff that they continue to say that we are. But yeah, and the fact that we've got a major election season coming up, yeah, they're going to say whatever they got to say right now, and then after the election cycle passes, the story's going to change. It'll be something else. Did anybody else notice that nobody really cares that we have aliens flying around now, and that they've admitted that? Isn't that crazy? It's whatever.
Well, was there any doubt? Right, like, I'm sorry, but if you've been paying attention for even just the last 5 years, like, if you're going to try and deny that stuff's been happening, like, I was the listeners won't know this, but I was shared with the 4 other fellows here, like, the book that I have of all of like the military reports of just like officers and enlisted just chiming in and having actual documented reports of stuff they see. But anyway, Gabe, there was something I also wanted to tack on to what you were just discussing. I agree that there isn't like, there's no need for a large military force to like go toe to toe with us, because if you like think about it this way, like the things that have been happening, the events that have lined up over the last couple of years that have transpired have significantly weakened basically the PR of America. Like we look weak. We look weak on almost every front. Like, I don't know if there's a front where we don't look weak at right now, between oil and energy, the military, politics, business. Like, if you've been seeing all this stuff coming in through Twitter, like the last like couple of days, now everybody's getting all down.
Policy representatives.
Yeah. And like now everybody's getting all down on the dumps because data's coming out and it's like, oh wait, like the economy's not as strong as we thought it was. Like, this is such a shock. Like, all this nonsense, putting America in such a weak PR position to where it creates a almost like a communications power vacuum across the globe, to where now people are capable. These countries are like, oh, America's weak. We're going to start doing what the fuck we've wanted to do for the last 20 years. Like what's going on in Africa right now. Mm-hmm. And like, wait until some shit starts popping off in South America. That wouldn't surprise me at all. And then, so like you get to this point of where all of these different power groups are challenging America's hegemony. That pushes us into a position where either we have to sit back and basically do nothing and basically get like cucked by the world, or we react and it'll be portrayed as an overreaction, and then we look like the bad guys, and then we just get put back in a losing position again. So like, as far as conspiracies go, whoever enacted like this strategy that has culminated in these events that has put us in this situation, they did it flawlessly. Like, we are not in a position of winning right now. We basically have to pull back and just like work on ourselves and do like kind of like some soul searching as far as the country goes, reestablish our foundation, which would be manufacturing and energy, and then go back to like actually producing things that the rest of the world wants besides our big heavy stick and our carrier groups.
Like, you just said something really interesting, like things happening in South America and Central America. Like, I feel like that's really going to be the trigger to let everyone know that the American empire is over, because the Monroe Doctrine was first kind of established in 1823. That was exactly 200. Well, in like December, it'll be 200 years. Like, that's kind of like, do you think an empire really can last for like, just think about just in the Western Hemisphere, Central and South America, like all of the Americas being controlled by the United States. Like, we've had that as a policy for a long time. We got these two big oceans. You're not going to be able to fuck with us. Well, times have really changed. There's so many other, I mean, the fact of trying to fight all these wars for the last 20 years and the rest of the world seeing that we can't do shit, that was a signal. Our current economic situation is a signal. The wars we're trying to fight and failing at even supplying are a signal. And that, I think that'll be kind of the last, like, this is the end, is when we can't control our own. And I'm not saying we should, like, I'm just saying from the empire perspective, that's kind of when you're really going to know that it's over, at least for contemporary people. Who knows when, like, historians will look back and put the date of the fall of the American empire. But you can best be assured we're living through it wherever they put that date.
Well, and on top of that, I was listening to a Spaces last night from a bunch of commodity traders, and they were discussing how China has apparently really stepped up their purchases of wheat from Brazil versus America, because Brazil is capable of producing it at a much cheaper rate than, or maybe not producing it, but they're selling it for a hell of a lot cheaper than we are. And we're also at a point now where silver miners, silver producers are like that. Apparently their earnings have been coming in this week and they are barely breaking even, if they're breaking even at all. So like, we're getting to the point now where those reverberations to the economy are starting to come back to the commodity space. And I don't know, things are going to get interesting. And that could be what starts to push America losing power out of South America, because when they get to that point, when China becomes their bigger trade partner, you're going to, if you're a country, you're going to ally with who you're getting more income from or revenue as far as trade goes. And then that's going to, because like, for those that don't know, China already has like a significant major stake ownership in, I think, every major shipping port across the globe.
Mm-hmm.
And then from that point on, then you just continue to like, oh, hey, like, you're getting all this money from us from our trade. We're going to put a base in your country, or one of these like secret police stations that they've tried to set up in America. Then they start to use that to push their influence out. And
so tying that back to the article that you posted earlier that I think you sent out, Mike, is who the United States Navy is the ones that are maintaining open seas and like trade, right? Like China is benefiting from this. So in a sense, from that, like, you'd think that there would be some point where it's like, look, you better cut a deal with us if you want to keep trade going, but we're the ones like protecting the sea lanes, right? So like, from that perspective too, it almost makes sense politically. Maybe like, I don't even think it's necessarily militarily, because you're kind of I guess you're not going to get, the U.S. Navy is not going to give up superiority of the seas, right? If they don't have to. No nation ever would. Like Britain didn't until we just fucking took that shit, right?
yeah.
So like that is kind of how it's going to go. If you look at like how that's going to play out, we're going to find a way like, all right, look, we're going to cut a deal with you. And that's probably what's happening here is like the deal is we're going to like we're going to give you oil. We're going to keep our costs down because we need to bring down inflation. We need to keep you training and we need to protect our trading routes globally. And you have to understand when we say like the US protects trading routes, it's not just like everything that's coming to the US. It's things that are going to China, to Singapore, China to India, or like everywhere. So it would make sense for down the road that the US and China cuts a deal to where one is the protector and one's the producer, right? Like if Britain could have done that when the US became a mass producer, they probably would have taken that deal and maintained power of the seas. But they didn't. They thought they could just maintain their power, right? And I think that's kind of where we're at now.
Pride got in the way. Yeah. That's all it was, pride and ego and hubris.
But now with this system, it means the US population in general is left to like suffer the brunt of that because the economy is going to collapse. But the elites that are in power are going to benefit because they keep the trade lanes open and they're in control of everything and they're cooperating with the most economically advanced nation. Not yet, but it's like that kind of seems to be the trajectory.
I see some wheels turning over there with Alex right now, man, and really wondering like what's going on there.
Well, just bring it back to the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. Like the whole point, like for people who aren't in the military, this may seem pretty obvious, may not. I don't know. Maybe you get this, but like projection of power overseas requires oil. You know, in World War II, one of the major objectives was to cut off all inflowing oil into Japan. And I mean, it's what the military runs on. People might think that the military is all about the shooting and the blowing things up. Well, it is, but the bottom line is, in order to get that stuff where it needs to go, you got to move it there, and moving it there requires oil. And any military in the world that does not have reserves of oil is basically you've hollowed it out. You've hollowed out its ability to project power. Now, I don't know. Like if I was active duty today, I'd be concerned about that. And the fact that it's being done for political reasons, it's like, okay, fine, I get that. But at the end of the day, like, I don't know. I just see all this stuff as ways of weakening the United States military. And we're facing it on multiple fronts. There's this concept called full spectrum warfare that is not just, it used to be, you had the guys on the ground, then you had the guys in the air, and then you had the guys in the water, and yada, yada, and everybody did their thing. And then you had this concept of combined arms. And that's how the U.S. military has fought for a long time now, where everybody's kind of working together. You have your specialties, but everybody works together for dominance on the battlefield. Well, now full spectrum warfare covers a lot more than just kinetics. Now you've got economic, financial warfare. You've got sort of psychological information warfare. You have cyber warfare. You've got space warfare. Like all of this stuff is starting to factor into the equation. And if you look at all the different pillars that a nation might stand on when it comes to being able to project power, you got to think of all of them. And I feel like we're under attack in a couple of different areas, but definitely these kind of policies aren't helping the strength of the U.S. military for sure.
Well, and on top of that, Alex, like I think a lot of people may not understand that like you don't deploy all of them at once. Like you deploy them in waves to chink away the armor of your opponent, right? Like maybe you use the cyber warfare to
we're done. That's it.
What's that?
I said he came out with a racial slur, and then we're done.
Oh, come on!
I didn't catch it. What was it?
I didn't. Don't repeat it. Chip away at the armor. I'll say that. But like maybe you open up with like starting.
You know what's funny? You know what's funny is that like people don't even catch it. Like I didn't catch it.
I didn't catch it. I'm playing it back now. I'm like, oh, okay.
Oh, but like the way that I would do it is if I was like a country with a military, like say like China or Russia, and I was trying to get to the point of weakening America, you open up with the cyber warfare to get people to start to like, stress out a little bit about things like their bank account or, the colonial pipeline thing that happened back here. I'm sure a lot of people forgot about that. You get them stressed out with that. Then you push the economic warfare aspect to where people are worried about their bank account from a different angle, maybe their employment, their retirement, the value of their home and all this other stuff. And then you start pushing like the more typical, because like one of the other, like an aspect of warfare is like, you don't just send the front line troops in first. Like you loosen up the enemy with artillery, and then you like, maybe you send in like some, like aerial bombardment, then maybe another wave of like artillery, and then you start to maybe send in like the armor a little bit with the armored infantry specifically, and like you do it in waves like that to like really beat down the enemy and exhaust them so that you can do the final push to break through. Like it's not like we don't fight wars like 300 anymore. We don't just send them in. Like, go get them, guys. Like, you're the vanguard. Go crush them. Like that's just not how it works. And when you think about it from that aspect, it just furthers the point that we've been making. Is like somebody is trying to weaken the U.S. I'm of that belief.
Maybe. I mean, if you connect all the dots, possibly, I think there's going to be a lot of people who are like, "You sound crazy as hell."
Yeah, sure. Maybe they can call me crazy all they want, but because like this is the other thing too, is like I hold these different, like these opposing opinions all the time. Like I'm not completely confident in what I just said, because I've also written that article for Zero Hedge where I stated that like there is the argument that what has been happening has been a self-produced, naturally produced, organically developed negative feedback loop of just from complacency of modernization.
So, are you reading the comment here?
I was gonna say I'm gonna hit the comment because I think we need a little comedy. Nick
Yikes.
on YouTube says someone in my chain of command got Bell's palsy from the vaccine and had to wear an eye patch. He had the patch on for his command photo, and someone put the Joe Biden sticker next to it.
Yikes!
And I did that. Holy shit, that is
yikes!
Fantastic. I mean,
all right, the military still has some good fighters.
Oh my god! Yeah. I wonder how long that lasted, and I wonder how in trouble everybody got over that.
The formation that came after that, where everybody stood and they talked about integrity and bullshit like that, after taking all these guys that have signed their name and said, "Oh, I don't want to be a guinea pig." Like, fuck that guy, man. Holy shit. I don't know. I've listened to a lot of what you guys have said, and man, I got to tell you, like, I may be that person that just goes like, this isn't some self-reinforced mistake. Like, I look at this and I go, these generals went to the same staff colleges that a lot of other people went to. They went to the same, warfare schools. This is not some sort of mistake. Like, this is, I think, very, very intentional and across all fronts. If you can't project power, like as a nation, well, you have to stay home, which actually might be really, really good for America, right? Like, I'm not saying I want to pay fucking over $3 a damn gallon for gasoline, but at the same time, taking the American military and getting it back into the shores of America is a net positive. I'm not that I agree with this at all. I'm saying there's some silver linings to what might be going on. In addition to that, like Senator Granholm, or Secretary of Energy Granholm, who used to be the really shitty governor of Michigan, this is not her first like foray into screwing up American energy policy. And maybe you guys remember back in April, she came up, and let me share the screen here. She came out and had a testimony, I think, in front of the Senate here. Let's turn this up.
Vehicles for an all-electric fleet again by 2030 really is putting crusade ahead of our department's lethality. We need to focus on that first. So do you support the military adopting that EV fleet by 2030?
I do, and I think we can get there as well. And I do think that reducing our reliance on the volatility of globally traded fossil fuels, where we know that global events such as the war in Ukraine can jack up prices for people back home, it does not contribute to energy security. I think energy security is achieved when we have homegrown clean energy that is abundant, like you see in Iowa. We think that we can be a leader globally in how we have become energy independent.
Well, and
I just have to pause for like a second. Everything that she just said was bullshit, right? Like everything that she just said in terms of being energy independent on green energy. You can't have green energy without fossil fuels, for God's sakes. Like you can't do it. It doesn't work. I just drove through Michigan where they've got all these giant windmills, and like you're sitting there thinking, like, at the same time, like, that windmill would have never, ever been produced through green energy. And really, if we look at what green energy is, it's a throwback. We used to use the sun. We used to use the wind. We used to use water. Like, we found fossil fuels, and it lifted more people out of poverty than anything ever has in history, globally, right? Like, for the first time, we got to go out of the muck and the mire. We didn't have to kill whales and sea life anymore to like burn our lamps at night. And now they're talking about going backwards into those things. I mean, God, there was a ship with sails on it, a tanker with sails on it. Like, oh, we finally learned how to harness the wind, and maybe this is the future of fucking shipping. For God's sake, you're like, yeah, throw that back on the Navy. I'm sure those guys are going to be really happy with that kind of bullshit. I don't know. Like, Senator Granholm was a terrible governor. She's possibly not only worse as an energy secretary, but in terms of lethality across the board, this makes us infinitely, weaker. And I think it's absolutely by design. I mean, if you go back to the early 1900s in history, that's when BP was like making their stake for a deal with Iran at the time, the Persian Empire. And when they went in through, what would become British Petroleum, they had stake in that. And that's really what led to their advancements in World War I, where they carried out their conquest and defeated, Germany. And I mean, it's one of those things that you just look at and you're like, this cannot be, on accident. This is not happenstance. This is happening because there is a concerted effort to weaken the United States of America. And I think people better get ready, because if you have the BRICS nations, which is, I think, something like 3+ billion people, and they say, we're going to start leveling embargoes against the United States, like we have places in the Middle East and around the world that we, quote unquote, disagree with. It's like, man, we've got some real come to Jesus moments coming as a country. And the only thing that prevents this kind of shit is adopting a new currency, a new form of trade, communications protocol. And like I said, we'll get into it soon, but that's fucking Bitcoin, guys.
Well, not to mention the one of my favorite topics of the Bitcoin conversation is the more physical, energetic infrastructure side of what Bitcoin mining incentivizes. Like, it incentivizes energy generation on multiple levels beyond literally any aspect of industry that we have right now. Like, just look at oil is almost close because it produces associated natural gas and we can derive power from that. But there's really nothing else out there where the production of the commodity can also be used to incentivize producing more energy that can be also shut off without damaging the infrastructure and allowing that energy to go elsewhere where it's needed, and then turning it back on almost at the drop of a hat, like when it's needed. Like, there's nothing like that, because if you do that for a smelter, like the aluminum smelters in Germany, We saw what happened when the nuclear power plants got shut down, and then like all of a sudden they were dealing with blackouts, so they had to tell the smelters to turn off. Like, you don't just spool that stuff back up. Like, that's an entire process that you don't stop until it goes to fruition, and then you spool it back up again. So like, yeah, the whole Bitcoin conversation, like I just love going down that whole rabbit hole. Like, not enough people talk about that.
No.
Yeah. The
Go ahead,
biggest problem, I think, and we all shared and looked at a video earlier today that kind of talked about like the envy and jealousy of kind of the left ideology, kind of looking at things like, oh, we can never compete with that, so let's tear it down. And that's a lot of what this is, versus like the ideology of just like the free market is that, like, look, if everyone thinks that the solution is to like just have government come in and dictate how energy should be used. The solution is to have a new technology that comes along and revolutionizes energy. And the only way that it is truly profitable, or the most profitable, is by just driving energy prices down. And what that creates is a society that is looking to be way more efficient at creating energy for lower costs. And that ultimately is what I think is best for the environment. Like, if you want to go down that road, I really think like to be a fit. When I was going to college, there was this lefty friend of mine who, like, his whole thesis was how like capitalism is actually good for like the environment and for the left, because at the end of the day, capitalism wants to drive out inefficiencies and it wants to make things really fucking efficient. And that's what Bitcoin does to energy. It wants to make things so fucking efficient because it creates so much goddamn demand. Like, the demand is going to be out of this world for it, that we can no longer rely on fossil fuels. Not because the government said, fuck these things, because we can be way more efficient with like nuclear energy. Like, that honestly is like,
say it again,
where it's going. Now, there could be other technologies. That's the other thing. Like, there are things we cannot predict where the economy is going to go.
He's on an autism dump.
Things are really stressed to this level. And everybody's laughing. And
what kind of energy?
So I'm wondering if anyone can even hear me anymore. I feel like I've been totally cut off.
Can you not hear us?
We heard you fine.
I don't think you can hear us.
Nuclear. I think people call it nuclear power everywhere but Texas and Tennessee, apparently. But like,
you definitely can't hear us.
You remember George Bush running around nuclear? Yeah,
nuclear.
No, so, but it is so like that is a topic that fans of Jordan Peterson may have heard him or may have missed him bring it up. Is that, like, with regards to the environmental conversation, when energy is cheaper, the third world is capable of leapfrogging the whole industrialization modernization process and just going straight into using the more clean, more efficient resources, to where like just that projection reduces the emission profile of that country or that region by tremendous amounts, because otherwise they're using very inefficient means and they're producing a lot of waste in order to get the energy that they need to reach subsistence. Like, it's just a really
man. I don't even, the whole emissions argument, I can't take it seriously. I'm sorry.
That's another thing too.
I just whenever somebody says emissions, I'm like, that is
sounds like a tax.
The fact that they even got you to say that word, it hurts my feelings.
Oh,
like, that's
I'm
just
sorry about
terrible.
That. But
terrible.
To your point, Alex, one of my favorite articles came out from NASA in 2019, stating that for the 20 prior years to this article from NASA, that the Asian continent has actually gotten greener since China and India have industrialized.
Makes sense if you
because
actually,
they're throwing,
that makes sense
because they're throwing carbon in the air.
Oh, I saw this thing the other day where it was some guy from the UK and he popped up a chart. And for scale, I'm going to just use my fingers here. Just imagine you've got like the UK is down here, this tiny itty bitty little line. Then you've got all these other Western nations. And then you've got the Chinese emissions are like this on the chart. It's like a freaking rocket ship going ballistic.
Yep.
And the guy from the UK made a really good point. He's like, why do we all need to modify our behavior and only have electric cars and do this, that, and the other thing when China is polluting like 1,000 times or whatever the number is more than all of us? Like, what is this all really about?
And they don't give a flying fuck about China or India or any third world nation that has more people than America. Like,
oh, and they also just happen to own all the land that has
So
the
he
resources
goes-
to produce those batteries.
So he goes, what is that all? What is this all really about? And guys, that is the question. What is that about?
power.
Global dominance.
It's about power. It's about tricking your dumb asses into believing a narrative that they can use to tax you and control what you're able to do.
And
That's what
the
it's
word.
about.
when did tax ever make anything better? We just lost Jordan. I don't know. Maybe he won't come back. I don't know.
He's resetting, I'm sure.
I'm just kidding. But like, tax doesn't make anything better. You can give these ass hats in DC all the money they ever wanted, right? Like, not that they don't already have it, but let's just say they did. They could have all our money, 100% of what we produce in a year, and the earth wouldn't cool off a degree. Not a single damn like fraction of a degree. Nothing would happen. There wouldn't be any less emissions, none of that stuff. There are two clips that I'm going to pull up. One is of Thomas Massey versus I think it was what's the guy that's the poodle looking guy, John Kerry.
The poodle.
I swear to God, it's impossible to have a serious conversation with
the
you.
cuck that's married to Teresa Hines. And
the poodle.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh, he's such a douche. And
Right. I gotta say, wait, before you continue. One of the best parts about this so far is watching Gabe's face. When you say certain things, he's not very expressive. He only moves his mouth only so much, but when he does, you can tell it's just sheer disgust.
we have to do screen captures.
So
I'm here for
funny.
you.
It's so funny.
Hey, I just want to touch on the environmental thing for a moment. We're throwing around a lot of important themes here that are just sparking some thoughts in my mind here. We're talking about power, we're talking about control, we're talking about how it affects different countries in different parts of the world, and the reality is when we
national security.
Yeah, well, I mean, of course, national security is an issue, but why would we enact policies? Why would governments enact policies to keep other countries from advancing their own technologies and their own civilizations? It's the exact same reason why there are certain people who are in power within the borders of our own country that do the same thing to our own population, especially those in the more urban areas of the inner cities. While they claim to be working for their equality and their well-being and their overall greater good, they're not. There are reasons why these areas are diving and continue to spiral into further poverty. Because all this help that they're getting from the people that are supporting them is actually keeping them under the heel of their boot. So they essentially have to live to sustain them through the taxes that they apply to the money that they give them in the first place.
The wildest part about that? You're right. And there are people from these different communities who speak up and say exactly what you just said. They say, guys, they're using us. They're using our vote. They're telling us they're going to do this thing. But in reality, they're basically just using this to do what they want. And they're not helping us at all. And then the weird thing about it is the rest of the community dogpiles them. I mean, they're speaking the truth, and they have all the knuckleheads are like, yeah, well, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, and the evidence is in, just look around. The evidence is there. I mean, it's been going on for years and years and years. And, the area where I live, there's a city nearby, the closest city, where it's very prevalent there. I'll just leave it at that. And there are one or two people within those communities, it's that exact same situation that you're talking about, where they're ingrained in that community. They come from the same place and they are speaking the truth out there. And man, they just get hammered in the public forum, but they're keeping up the fight. And they're going to have to, and that's just the way that it is. The good news is, we do have something that can change this. It's going to require a great deal of education. But the more people that learn about Bitcoin, the more people will be set free from that quagmire that they are currently existing in, that then they have been generationally for so long. But one of the biggest levers that they have right now that they are using is the green garbage stuff that they keep on spewing out there and treating as though it's real. And we talked about the virtue signaling a little bit, and it's just it blows my mind that they would put so much emphasis on something like this, and to the point where they are really decreasing our own physical security and safety as a country and as a people. They're sacrificing us for their initiatives that are, of course, making them richer. But, the more powerful the fiat system is, the more they can keep pushing this. So again, I circle back around to the fact that we have hope. There is hope in this. And that, I believe, is what kills the Green New Deal, because it is directly tied into fiat, is Bitcoin. Bitcoin can kill that. And it doesn't matter how many little girls, that funny looking kid from Norwegia that does a little poses and gets fake arrested by the police, Greta, whatever her name is. But sorry, did I say she was
Oh my
funny
God,
looking?
that's right. I forgot about that. She got.
Do you remember
fake
that photo op?
arrested.
Yeah.
Oh my
She's
God.
done it like half a dozen times
It
since
was-
she got busted.
It was during Davos. I mean,
Yeah.
literally, she got busted during Davos faking this whole damn thing. You know what else is great is when Thomas Massey destroyed this idiot John Kerry. You guys want to see that stuff? Because I got it ready to rip, and it is.
Rip it.
Is this the G4? Is this the G4, Shane?
This is the parts per million conversation, which is
Yes.
hysterical.
Okay. I think.
Oh yeah.
Instead of convening a kangaroo court, the president might want to talk with the educated adults he once trusted to fill his top national security positions. It sounds like you're questioning the credentials of the president's advisors currently, but I don't think we should question your credentials today. Isn't it true you have a science degree from Yale? What's that?
Bachelor of Arts degree.
Is it a political science degree?
Yes, political science.
So how do you get
My
a
regret.
Bachelor of Arts in a science?
Well, it's liberal arts education and degree. It's a bachelor.
Okay, so it's not really science. So I think it's somewhat appropriate that somebody with a pseudoscience degree is here pushing pseudoscience in front of our committee today. I want to ask you,
Are you serious? I mean, this is really serious happening here.
you know,
he's flustered.
it is serious.
Blew his
to call the
mind.
President's cabinet a kangaroo court. Is that serious?
I'm not calling his cabinet a kangaroo court. I'm calling this committee that he's putting together a kangaroo committee.
What are you saying, that he doesn't have educated adults there now?
I don't know who it has yet because it's secret.
Well, you said it in your testimony.
Why would he
That's
have
what
to have
you're
a
saying.
secret analysis of climate change?
Let me ask
Why
you-
does the
let me ask-
president
let's
need
get
to
back to
keep
the
it
science of
secret?
it. Let's get back to the science of it.
But it's not science. You're not quoting science.
Well, you're the science expert. You got the political science degree. Look, let me ask you this. What's the consensus on parts per million of CO2 in the atmosphere?
About 406 today.
Okay, 406. Are you aware?
350 being the level that scientists have said is danger.
Okay, are you aware? 350 is dangerous. Wow. Are you aware that since mammals have walked the planet, the average has been over 1,000 parts per million?
Dinger.
No, but we weren't walking the planet. Let me just-
What?
We now know that definitively at no point during the past 800,000 years has atmospheric CO2 been as high as it is today.
The reason you chose 800,000 years ago is because for 200 million years before that, it was greater than it is today. And I'm going to, and for the record.
Yeah, but there weren't
Oof.
things. I mean, there was a different world, folks. We didn't have 7 billion people.
So how did it
living yet.
get to 2,000 parts per million if we humans weren't here?
Because there were all kinds of geologic events happening on Earth which spewed
Did
up.
geology stop when we got on the planet?
Mr. Chairman, this is just not a serious conversation.
I agree.
Oh man, that was good.
So that wasn't
Thomas
that-
Massey.
that wasn't the clip that I was expecting.
our YouTube channel.
Oh, let me get rid of this
Subscribe by
idiot.
clicking on that button.
Sorry.
That wasn't the clip that I was expecting. The most recent one where, like, I think we may have talked about it already once before. Maybe we didn't, where Kerry got called out for his family owning a G5 or a G4 plane. And
Yeah,
the
that's
amount
where I
of
thought we were going with it.
the amount of emissions that get dumped just on the one flight of him like going there. He's like, "Well, I don't own one."
It's my wife's plane.
Yeah,
Like,
I
that's
gotta tell you guys, like, I know Thomas.
I'm not in my house. I'm in my wife's house right
Yeah.
now.
He's such a good dude, and the fact that he's a graduate from MIT and is probably leaps and bounds smarter than a lot of people up there, like, he walked Kerry into this thing just head first, and it was glorious. Yeah, like, I don't know. We've beat. Maybe we've kind of beat this horse on ESG and climate and the strategic petroleum reserve to death a little bit. You guys want to take a beating at this thing that came up earlier in our yeah,
Accurate.
that's General Miley.
It's so offended.
Oh my god, I didn't see the I love CRT on his shoulder.
Yeah, this is one of the most beautiful fucking memes I've ever seen. Whoever did this, hey, congratulations. It's I love CRT. He, instead of a stack, he's got the rainbow flag, and on the other side where his medals go, Black Lives Matter with fucking glittery hearts. It says, I don't know why everyone keeps saying the army is woke. I'm offended, with his bright ass pink crew cut. Fellas, any takers?
He's got a little bit of blush on that left cheek there. It's real cute. He looks great.
This all started with those freaking stress cards that were available when I went through basic training. Like, I think I told you this to you guys last time, and I've said it to all of my buddies that I still keep in touch with that are in the military or are also veterans. When I went through basic and I found out that there were fucking stress cards, I was just like, well, I've already got 6 years in. This is already fucking embarrassing. Like, I've made it 3 weeks without just having my entire value or my entire view of the military getting diminished. Like, I'm just like, God damn it, dude. It's just been a downhill slide since then.
In 2009, I was going through officer infantry basic. And that is, while I was going through that, they repealed the don't ask, don't tell. And I remember like the news came out about that. And maybe like one of our instructors told us or something. And I just looked around at everybody and I said, well, guys, we're all going to have to stop acting a whole lot less gay. And, I didn't realize at the time that was like the beginning of the end. I didn't see it coming. I just felt like if you want to be gay, that's fine. Like, go ahead, be gay. Like, I don't give a shit. It's just like, I should probably stop acting so gay around you guys. So like, you don't think that I am, because we all were doing that. Like, that's just kind of what you did in the infantry. I don't know. Maybe it was just an officer thing. I don't know.
It's also
they still do it.
It's also a Navy thing.
Like, very much. I think the Navy actually brought most of this shit in, right, Alex?
Why are you asking me? I'm not supposed to know the answer to that question.
Well, I mean, between the two of us,
don't act like you were never on a ship, Shane.
We spent more time on the ship than anybody, and I definitely think it was the Navy's fucking fault. No, I'm totally kidding.
Well,
we all know it was the Air Force.
Well, the Navy does have the most seamen, so
yeah, that's right. But this is a double-edged sword, and I don't think a lot of people think of it this way. I was out on an OP a long time ago, and this was when all this kind of shit was getting started, and equal treatment and all that kind of stuff. And so we had we were doing some casts for anybody that doesn't speak the lingo. CAS is call for air support. So what we were doing was we were frontline joint terminal attack controls in terms of we were people on the front lines calling in air support, and this was just training. So we're out there, and at these events, you've got air assets, whether it's fast movers or helicopters or whatever, that are lining up and stacking up and going into rotations. And part of the squadron that was helping us, their lieutenant colonel was out there, and she happened to be a female. And so as we're all out here and things are going down, and the usual banter, like the usual like banter is going around about whatever, who this guy's conquested, who, this guy's wife conquested, whatever, right? And we're not using any of those terms. Like, it's just free flowing. Meanwhile, she's standing behind all of us. And this shit is like, I mean, it's comical. It's, it's very adult, and it's not suggestive at all. There's nothing being left to the imagination. There is full fucking detail going on. And when we discovered that she was standing behind us, things didn't change. And as I was kind of a new guy at the time out there, as we came offline and away from her, I said, "Hey, dude, there's that lieutenant colonel has been back there the whole fucking time we've been talking about this kind of stuff." And she, everybody was like, "You know what? Fuck her. They want equal treatment, then they can hear equal things, and then they can fucking fit in or fuck off." And I was just like, "Huh, that should be. That is a much more interesting perspective of equal, treatment in the military than what's being pushed by the brass."
Well, yeah, and that's not. Go ahead, Jordan.
It's not like pussyfooting around. Like, we're just all out there talking. If I have to censor myself because a woman showed up, isn't that like sexist? It's like, no, I'm going to talk how I'm going to talk. And I wasn't saying it because a woman wasn't around. We're just saying this shit because we're fucking saying this shit. Because you know what? There's a lot more serious shit going. Now, I realize you're describing like a training event, and I'm picturing a little more like, guys' asses are on the fucking line. Like, we might fucking die. Like, so who gives a shit, right? Like, we're just trying to lighten the mood a little bit to keep like spirits up, and just keep like, we're doing a fucking shitty thing. We got shitty ass fucking leadership above us giving us shitty fucking orders, and we're out here trying to accomplish the mission for goddamn America. So thank you very much. And we're gonna talk some shit.
And to your point, Jordan,
and I didn't say this shit because a woman wasn't around. I said this shit because that's just what we all needed to fucking say at the time.
Well, and what's to your point, it's actually worse than that in terms of conditions, because you are in the middle of fucking nowhere. You've been there probably for weeks, maybe even like living in the dirt for weeks with, an observation post and all that kind of stuff. It's hot as fuck. You might be in like, I don't know, 29 Palms or somewhere out in like NTC. It's 100 billion fucking degrees. And, at the same time, now you got to go and operate and do casts in front of these people that just showed up unannounced for the air show. And there's a literal, like, legitimate chance that you could get schwacked because some dipshit pilot comes in and drops something on your position. It happens more than you would think, right? So for that to happen in that situation where you're like, yeah, you know what? This guy's having as good a damn time as they could possibly have under some really shitty circumstances.
And the thing is, I feel like even back when I was in, which, Shane, you were a little before this, but like, even when I was in, like, the women that were around, it wasn't like, if I want to write
I love you, Coin.
God damn, yeah, Coin Father. But like, the difference back then, at least for me, was that like, if there were women around, they didn't care that you were saying these things. They were just like, I'm here. This is what the dudes are saying. Like, I'm not trying to like are they accomplishing the thing that I need accomplished? Yes. Okay. That's all that matters.
Their behavior.
And now things are changing, and I don't even think it's necessarily because of like the women in the military. I think it's because of a lot of this wokeism and a lot of the men thinking we have to watch what we say. And it's like, you have to watch what you say. Why don't you focus on what the mission that needs to be done is? Like, accomplish the mission.
Hey, real quick, guys, I want to just let you guys know, this is kind of a surprise for you fellas that I'm talking to right now. We're actually live from the Bitcoin Veterans Twitter Spaces right now as well. So if you guys are out there, and there are some great people out there, old fashions out there, Terrence the fucking legend is out there. And Turbo Dog and Laura and man, I'll tell you what, we got Bitcoin is Revolution, Scully's out there. Hey, thank you guys for tuning in on Bitcoin on Twitter Spaces, X Spaces, whatever the hell it is these days.
Just keep calling it Twitter. I'm not fucking calling it X.
Yeah, fuck X. That sounds stupid.
I definitely agree with you guys, but it's still twitter.com as well. It's not x.com.
Good.
I don't think you bought that shit. But hey, yeah, appreciate all you guys. And as we're getting into the second hour, if you want to come up and maybe say anything, please feel free to request an invite and I'll bring you up on stage. And that way, maybe we can get this thing rocking and rolling the way we kind of initially thought we might. But anyway,
don't be a bitch and get on stage.
I didn't realize we had the spaces up and running. That's
it was kind of a test. It was one of those things. Yeah, don't open anything else. We've got great audio. Don't fuck it up.
But there was one thing I wanted to add onto Jordan's autism dump. I'm of the opinion that things honestly did kind of get started with the whole feminist movement a little bit. Maybe it didn't necessarily start in the beginning, but it kind of snowballed into it to where not only with the feminists, but also with a lot of these other wokeist equality kind of pushes is the double standard of quote unquote equality. Like they're trying to cherry pick all of the benefits without getting any of the negatives. It's like, no. If you want equality, you're going to get treated equally. And that means taking all of the negatives with the positives that entails.
What does that say about society too, that's not part of it, right? Like, you know, when they make some really good points. I think it's probably Jordan Peterson, which we brought up a couple times now. You know, it's like, hey, you know what? You want to be a construction worker? You want to do hard labor? You want to, you know, go out and do trash? You want equal representation in prison? Like, dude, there's negatives to equality. You want to be drafted, you want to die in the same numbers in the drug war and in wars overseas as males do, or be dismembered. Like if we're talking about literal equality rather than this fairy tale idea that gets rammed down the throat by feminists, and let's face it, like there's a lot more women who teach kids in government indoctrination centers, also called schools, that, you know, are absolutely destroying this independent fucking culture. And that, like,
right, that's
it. It's like, it has to be equal. It's equal good. It's equal whatever, and it's equal misery. So
yeah,
if you're signing up for equality, well, I got something for you, because this equality thing, I tell you what, especially with dudes that know what an honest day's hard fucking work is, like that is one of those things that I think, you know, hey, listen, I don't necessarily need my daughter to do those kind of things. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know.
If you want equality, you got to take the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Well,
just like men do.
Yeah. Well, the reality is equality is a freaking illusion, and it's a construct that we as humans have created. It doesn't exist in nature. Okay. There is no equality. There's competition. There's meritocracy. And that is the way of life. We have created it as you know, this is again, it's another virtue signal. And it may as well be the same thing as the Green New Deal. It's false. It's an illusion. And it's created to make people feel as though they're doing something special with their lives. I don't want to be equal. Okay. I want to continue to strive and move further up and to grow and to continuously improve myself and become the absolute best, most optimized version of me that I can be.
Yeah. You want to grow into your superiority.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean that, you know, I mean, there are people that, you know, that I look at and I want to emulate certain characteristics and attributes and skills that they have. But I'm not going to ask them to lower who they are just so I can be equal, or for them to change the conditions or standards of their own lives or environment so I can be equal to them. That's not what I want. I want to know that I have room to grow, and I want to know that if I'm going to get there, that I have to earn it, because equality that is given is not equality at all.
Oh, and that dovetails into the whole another kind of topic that is along these lines. Is like, I have been sick and tired of like the diversity hire stuff for a long time. Like, I'm sorry, but you should not get a job just because you come from a specific group of people. Like, a company should not get tax incentives because they have X number of whatever nationality or sex in their company. Like, a company should be rewarded as far as like getting market share and revenue and profits because they are hiring the smartest and most capable people that they can afford to get. Like, that's what matters. And then like then you could talk about like how like that's the whole fiat system pushing that bullshit to the point of where they're forcibly creating inefficient companies that are market participants and driving economic efficiency down.
Well, that's the other cool thing about Bitcoin is, of course, one of the core principles is proof of work. Okay. And that's what it's about. And then the meritocracy is built around that. Okay. And it's not just the, the mining aspects of it, but it's the entire mindset. When we can embrace that philosophy of proof of work, then it changes our perspective on things that we think that we deserve in this life. The only thing that we deserve is a hole in the ground, maybe, when we're done or when the world is done with us. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the movie Unforgiven from Clint Eastwood. It's kind of from back in the 1900s, but there's a moment where he confronts somebody and he does, painful things to him. And the guy says, "I don't deserve this." And he says, "Deserve's got nothing to do with it." That's reality. Okay. You don't deserve anything. Okay. You deserve what you go out there and you get. That's about it. So I'm going to leave it at that.
Just a quick announcement. I relaunched Twitter Spaces and they just fucking killed it again. So what did we say? Did anybody catch like what the missile was?
If you go back when you're in editing, when you're in editing, go back and listen to your last rant. It was you, Shane. It was literally right when you were ranting. There was something when you were ranting.
Stop all that. Start it again. I fucked it up because I was on there too, and I fucked it up. So
don't say that. Let the conspiracy just about.
No, like he is right because hold on, Jordan. Because like Shane, if you boot up the Spaces and then Jordan logs into the account from his phone, it will close it down.
I mean, it's happened twice, and I didn't realize. I'm off of it. So it's you, Shane. Fucking run with it.
Jordan,
I apologize.
Goddamn amateur.
But also, it's a goddamn NSA, motherfuckers.
Jordan is now picked up senior producer status.
I'm on the inside.
All things will be
actually I'm shutting this fucking thing down from the inside.
Guys, we are above the top of the hour, and this is where we've said, hey, we're going to turn this fucker around. Like, we for an hour we've given you some real doom and gloom, and now it's time to like bring in the hopium and just absolutely crush it right straight into your heart, like atropine. Like, just nail that. Sorry, you guys want to hear a funny ass story? I knew you did. One of the first
No, I do not want to hear anything funny, Shane.
One of the first times we ever, and I think we should probably do this more too, is we should probably share war stories with people and maybe invite people on to share war stories, especially the funny ass ones where like nobody fucking dies, but maybe close. So it's 2003. And I think it's probably somewhere around February. I remember having a birthday around there somewhere. And we've got, Camp Commando, which is a piece of shit, piece of dirt in Kuwait. And we're just like filling sandbags and all this kind of stuff, right? So as we're doing this, the big voice system, I don't know if they didn't have any better names for this thing than the big voice system, because there's speakers all around camp. And that's where they had a little bit of electricity, and it would, come up with this, like, I don't know, warning, and then they would project a voice, and it would said, warning, Scud inbound, and it would repeat, right? And so we were like, oh shit, right? Like, a lot of times, this is the first time we've ever seen any sort of anything, right? And I was like, oh yeah, this is not how I pictured dying. There's a Scud that fucking takes me out. And I mean, and anybody that's been around for a long time knows that we used to call Scuds sure could use directions, because they would literally fucking fire and fucking forget, right? and
you forget because you don't know where they're going to go, and you don't care because
there's no laser guidance system.
They're not going to hit what they're actually aimed at.
Like we've really zeroed in the target to an area of about 250 fucking miles, right? Like
square miles. Like it's a big plot.
It's fucking huge. But luckily for us, like we're grabbing our shit and like trying to get into the bunkers as fast as we can, which I don't think would have done much, but we got into them, and sure as shit, man, like this low flying sound of like what sounded like an F-18 coming real close to the nape of the earth, and it hit like probably 200 yards away from us. And everybody's freaking the fuck out. They're like, they're purging their gas masks and everything like that. We're in there. And meanwhile, a little further down the road, there are a couple of PFC Lance Corporals that are in this guard tower watching the fucking front gate together. And they didn't leave their post because in the Marine Corps, 10 orders, right? You don't quit your post until you're properly fucking relieved. These guys are out there.
Those poor fuckers, dude.
Dude, this thing fucking burns in. And sure as shit, man, those two are like, hey, you got to stab me in the fucking chest with the atropine, because they give you atropine, which is supposed to help you, like, I guess, somewhat survive a fucking NBC, nuclear biological attempt or attack. And so, yeah, sure as shit, they fucking tear off their bullet bouncers and they stab each other in the fucking chest with the atropine. And from there forward, they were known as the atropine twins. And when everybody, like, they walk into the fucking chow hall, and everybody's like everybody fucking cheered them, because it got around. I mean, like wildfire. These two idiots had done that. There was no NBC. The fucking Scud ran out of gas, so they stabbed each other in the fucking hearts for absolutely no.
So like the ordnance didn't even go off. Like the boom was just it crashing.
It's just crashing.
Oh my god!
It didn't even arc. So I don't know. I don't know where I was going, but like I thought that was a great war story, and it was, nobody's really hurt. I don't know how those guys are doing today, but back in the day when they were a source of joy for a lot of guys. So anyway.
I thought that was a pretty good story.
One quick comment. Something I thought was funny is when you said, I didn't really think I was going to die like this.
That happened a lot in my mind.
Bro, me too.
Yeah.
That's why I was like, interesting that he said that. I wonder if that goes through a lot of guys' mind. Like when the first time they encounter that situation where it's like, man, I might check out right here.
Like, really? This is it?
Like, yeah, no, seriously. That's what went through my mind too. The first time I was like, is this what it's going to be like? God damn, that sucks.
Yeah. Well, yeah. When indirect fire is coming in and you're in the 130-degree shit box, that's definitely a thought that goes through your mind.
I'm going to ask this, and I already know the answer. Who wants to hear like a brand new lieutenant's first experience leaving the wire from, the fob,
just
going out?
Just say it.
And the answer is we all do. So we already know that. So like we're getting ready. We're leaving Camp Ramadi and we're heading down to our cop outside of Fallujah. And we're like, I don't know, maybe half a mile outside of the wire. And I'm in the second vehicle in the 4 or 5 vehicle convoy we're in. And the vehicle ahead of me, all of a sudden, this like puff of smoke goes up, and all the training I've ever experienced is just like, oh, puff of smoke. I can't hear anything because I got like my headset on and I'm in this vehicle, so I don't hear anything. I'm like, oh, I just can't hear it. I'm like, fucking IED just went off. But then I kind of look around and like my driver's like a fucking PFC and he's just like keeps driving. I'm like, you don't seem to be reacting at all. Maybe this isn't a big deal. Like, what the fuck's going on? Then we get a little closer and I realize there's just a bunch of fucking sand on the highway that he ran over, and it just went after he drove over it. And I was like, oh, okay. He just drove over sand. It's okay. Like, I don't have to start calling in anything. I'm just a brand new fucking lieutenant that just is like literally 3.5 seconds outside of the wire.
I don't know why these new LTs get such a bad rap, man.
No wonder. I mean,
I didn't like hit the radio and be like, "What the fuck's happening?" I just like looked around and said, "Nobody else is reacting. Maybe I should keep my cool."
But you did get lost using a map, right?
Dude, look, y'all can talk some shit on lieutenants, but I was a motherfucking stud at land nav.
Oh, that's good. You went against the grain on that one.
Don't go there with me. The whole reason I went SF is because I wanted to do the star course. I was like, that looks like a badass land nav. I need a challenge. Let me join SF because they've got a cool land nav course during their selection process. This is the whole reason I went that route.
It's a smart move. Going the way of your skill set. That was a smart move.
I was just like, oh, that's all you have to be good at? I'm good at that. Yeah. No, apparently you have to be really smart at a lot of other things, and I'm a fucking retard, so it took me a while. But that was the selection process. I just had to be good at that.
I done read maps good, so
I could turn north going up.
That's the quota system at work. Thank God. You know. what would we have done without the quota system?
That was a good bit of laugh, though, guys. Thank you.
Good stuff. We should take at least 10 minutes each episode and do fucking war stories.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a pretty good idea. Like I'm pretty sure between the five of us, there's some pretty hysterical stuff. Like,
legitimate war stories is all you guys, but I am here for all of it.
Hey,
they're great stories.
Hey, Mike, we all saw the picture with your invincibility shield on. We all know you have stories. They don't have to be combat stories to be fucking hilarious.
Right.
That was really good, by the way.
I think that's the point. When I say war stories, I mean just funny shit that happened.
Hey, the belt of invulnerability is real, and everybody that's been in the military knows it's a fact. If you are wearing that belt of invulnerability, you can literally get hit by an LMTV and nothing will happen.
No. Yeah.
I'm going to make a meme with the Bitcoin Veterans logo with just the reflective belt around
it. For all the pogues. Let's go.
We need to get with that gal that does like the little Bitcoiner cartoons and get like a little Bitcoiner and have like a Bitcoin Veterans pin on it and then the belt of invulnerability.
Oh,
yes,
right?
with an unfitted ACH helmet. And
yeah, dude, perfect.
Too funny. What's her name? Lena
Saishi or something.
Lena Saisha, something like that. Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce the last name. Obviously,
I thought you nailed
things we should have worked out pre-production.
Yeah.
What? In a funny sense, fellas, what is the funniest woke shit that you saw ever in the military? Maybe experience. You know, maybe we don't have time for everybody to answer, but like literally, like what was absolutely I don't know, the moment where you and the guys or girls, whatever, were all laughing together at some dumb woke ass policy that you're like, dude,
the absolute failure that was their sexual harassment training.
Go, please expound.
Every single sexual harassment like briefing, like they went as far as to make like full length, like 15-minute movie productions for setting up scenarios for this bullshit, and then like 2 hours worth of PowerPoints. Even the women didn't take it seriously. Everybody was laughing at how stupid this training was. It was completely ineffective. It was so ineffective that in the training, they literally tell specifically the women, if you are in a situation where you think you're getting raped, yell fire, because nobody runs towards helping somebody in a rape situation. Now, like that can be dark or whatever, but it's just like, it's just hilarious at how like they are completely incapable of pushing like wokeism as far as like making it like bought into by anybody other than the commissioned officer class. Like anybody that's enlisted.
Wait a minute. I got to ask a question about this. You serious right now? Like they said that people don't try to help out if someone's
Yeah, you yell fire. You don't yell rape.
Yep. I was subjected to the same damn thing. It was ridiculous.
That's mind blowing.
But like in the middle of the briefings, like the when we're struggling through the presentations of the PowerPoints, everybody is laughing at how just completely shit the briefing is.
Yeah.
Can you imagine being the guy tasked with doing the briefing?
Oh my God.
Oh, they know it too, man. They know it.
Oh no, they 100% know it, and
Yeah.
they're like, well, the thing is, we're talking about like, this is much different than like the last 5 years. I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, Mike. Were you in the last 5 years?
My contract ended in 2020, so yes.
Okay, so maybe you saw it, but I really feel like it was within. It's even been since you, like, just based on the facts of the things we're bringing up. Like, I remember that in like 2010 being like, Jesus, these like sexual assault videos are fucking terrible. Like, they're just all they're doing is teaching my guys like what not to do and what you should do to get away with something. Like, they were fucking terrible. Just fucking awful. And I don't even think that's on the top of the iceberg compared to what's going on now. I mean, we had somebody, and Shane, you might have one of these images, but like somebody shared the image of like one of the woke comments that's going on right now. And it's like, I cannot like my old story of like, they repealed Don't Ask, Don't Tell. That sounds so fucking like 18th century compared to what is happening right now. So yeah. I don't even think any of us are qualified to talk. Like, we need some people to come up and like speak on this, because I honestly don't think any of us.
We need somebody who's active duty right now, but the problem is if they speak on it in their active duty, they're getting in big trouble.
We need somebody who just got out, whose VA is already approved.
The craziest things we ran into was like, I don't know, like Moms for America or some dumb shit like that, right? Like the softening, right? Like that was the worst thing we were running into. I mean, literally in the birthing areas on ship, we had the straightest gay guy and the gayest straight guy, you know, doing gay dare with each other in the fucking birthing area in front of fucking everybody. And it was hysterical. It was very uncomfortable. And like, you were like, oh, I don't want, like, maybe I don't know, but like, it was that was a normal thing on ship, and it was a normal thing in the platoon, and it was just like anybody who wanted to fuck with anybody, you were fair game back in the day. So like, and it built like
all that's gone. The hazing's gone. So like, you asked the question, what is the wokest thing you ever saw? That all happened after my time. Like I'm older than I look. I was in a long time ago.
Yeah, I had no idea until you shared those pictures.
Yeah, I have no digital photographs of when I was in the military. That's how old I am. So anyway, like when I can remember getting out in a boot and getting to my first command, and I could remember the dudes griping about how like people aren't allowed to beat each other up anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
like that just ended. Those kind of things just stopped when I was going in. And I mean, you know, Mike, you brought up the thing about the stress card. It's like, you know, if you're in boot nowadays and your DI, your instructor, or your company commander is going at you real hard, you just give them the stress card or whatever. I can't deal with it, right? You know, right before I went in, I guess they were beating the crap out of you if you weren't getting your shit straightened out, right?
Yeah.
We had a kid fall out of the second story fucking building. You know, like we were on the first level.
Jesus Christ, dude.
Yeah, Paris Island. You know, this guy fell out of the window, and we had to put him on like quote unquote suicide watch. Literally, like guys standing around with a blue light on this dude all night long, and he was muttering things. He probably had a concussion, but like literally, the guy fell out of the window. Before we go any further, I knew like we got about 5 minutes left. I wanted to open this up because Twitter Spaces is back up. No thanks to Jordan, but wanted to invite Old Fashioned.
You motherfuckers down.
He's tuned in 3 fucking times and tried to talk. So I was like, you know what, we got to extend the invitation.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and he just gave us the I am retard. So Old Fashioned, brother, go ahead and unmute and let's hear it. Let's see if this thing works.
Cheers, boys. How am I coming in?
Oh, 5x5, brother.
Loud and clear.
Lima Charlie.
Yeah, man. Y'all, you motherfuckers are testing in prod today. I don't know what's going on. It's got to get that attention to detail going, brother. I'm fucking with you. Twitter Spaces can suck sometimes to connect with. Anyway, I was just going to end on the subject. I was in Japan for a while, flying around, trying to hold the line against the CCP, and I land back in Denver at Buckley, and I was on the intel side of things. I get in there, and there's a guy in the Navy who's a midget. And evidently,
What?
Short person.
I'm just gonna
Little
say,
person.
I'm just gonna
Little
say
person.
Midget.
This shit sounds made up right now. I'm just saying it sounds pretty made up.
No shit. There I was. All right.
Only
Keep-
somebody
keep
who
going,
spent
old-fashioned.
time in Japan would think this is a normal.
Shane, turn him back up so old fashioned keep going.
Yeah, please keep going.
Hey, cheers. The little person, whatever. Either way, the guy got about 5 contractors fired because he claimed they made fun of him. Meanwhile, that dude would make jokes like to ladies that he was the perfect height for them and all this shit. It was like they tried to transfer me to his section, and I vehemently refused. And I refused to go because, man, it was just a setup. I don't know what's going on. That little guy was getting
It's a setup. They're trying to get rid of you.
Yeah, well, I'll open that up for myself with having a few whiskeys and just speaking my mind sometimes. But it was entertaining to say the least. The dynamics have been muddied when we've gone so woke that like everyone's walking on eggshells because HR is open and ready for somebody to come tell some shit to. And I've seen a lot of good people get pushed out of the service and the system because of whiny little, small-minded
Bitches.
people who might be a little too sensitive, and it just hurts my heart to see it. And man, if we don't wake up soon and kill this cancer and get it out of the system, we're just going to have the bar's going to be lowered further. We're going to have more and more problems on our hands. And anyway, it's my birthday today, boys. So I'm
happy
drink
birthday.
that
Happy birthday, dude. Happy birthday, man.
This is old fashioned out for a big steak
Cheers,
and drink before
motherfucker.
happy, and
Hey,
we'll see how it goes.
Stick around because Gabe's going to sing "Happy Birthday" to you.
You better fucking sing it well. 'Cause
Hey, old fashioned.
Today.
I've been drinking with you all night. I didn't know why, but I'm drinking with you.
Old fashioned. Hey, man,
Cheers.
we really appreciate you stopping by, man. Sorry it was so close to the end of the show, and thanks everybody out there at Twitter Spaces for coming back in for this. Let's wrap this thing up. Let's throw it around. We're at hour 31. We blew right through our time hack, but whatever. Who gives a shit? Closing thoughts on how wokeness in the military and Bitcoin kind of maybe fit in the same space to give some people some hope.
That's an easy question, Shane. Easy.
Well, then hit it up, Alex.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Come on, Mr. Easy.
I'm
Let's hear
scared.
it.
I don't know how to follow up midget stories.
Oh, it's so good to laugh.
That's actually a pretty deep conversation, I think. Like, there's a lot to unpack to kind of bridge those two concepts together. And I think that is actually going to occur over the series of episodes that we do over time. But a lot of it is going to have to come down to regaining a system where the politicians are actually accountable to the people. Because a lot of this stuff is basically political, second and third order effects from political fallout. So until politicians are held accountable in terms of their behavior, I don't know how that's going to get fixed. And I think I personally believe that it may take a little while. This is not going to happen overnight. Heck, it could take decades, perhaps. I don't know. It could go faster than that. Maybe it depends on the adoption rate, all that kind of thing of Bitcoin. But when you change the revenue system, you change the money system. That's going to be the start of holding politicians accountable. And we can dig deeper into that in other episodes. But that's the direction it's going to have to go. Aside from just really, problems. And I would rather not see the problems route. I would much rather see the peaceful evolution of mankind to a better species through Bitcoin.
Yeah, I have to go, man. I don't have to leave, but I gotta jump right now on this because what you're saying is working with me, man. I completely agree. This is the type of thing that is multi-generational in the change duration of it. It's going to take a while. And yeah, what we're seeing in the military, obviously, of course, is definitely politically driven. I don't know if you've read the book About Face by David Hackworth about his battle against a lot of the worst parts of the military. I'll just put it to you like that. But I mean, we saw a tremendous shift happen in the direction towards what we're referring to as wokeness back in around 2008, when starting around that time we saw an increase in the purging of quality leaders. With covered in scandal, David Petraeus was driven out, Stanley McChrystal was driven out, and these were people not perfect, obviously, but they commanded respect, and I would consider them in large part to be good leaders. But it's been seen continuing and just growing and growing worse, and there are reasons behind that. However, and I agree, that is a longer, much more expansive conversation for us to have. But again, we can come back around to hope when we look at what Bitcoin can do, when we look at freeing the revenue, when we look at empowering individuals, when we look at especially educating our fellow veterans and non-veterans, bringing this education on Bitcoin into the military, and enlightening and sharing and empowering active duty service members, and even the younger generations that we can call pre-military individuals, because people are still going to join. Not as many are joining, but people will still join the military. People do still want to serve. There are some kids that are still growing up, shooting things in the backyard with 22s. They want to do military type stuff, and it's just, they love it, and that's great. Let them get out there and let them do that. Hopefully we can prepare them to go in and to salvage what is left of our military. But the reality is, this is the way that we can do that. Bitcoin is the way that we can do that. It is the most powerful lever that we have that can begin to create that cultural shift within the military, because regardless of our thoughts and our feelings about the military is an important element of any national identity. And I do want to point out, I'm not talking about governmental identity. I'm talking about our national identity as people. Okay, our warriors matter. The warriors of any civilization matter to that civilization. And what they do is a huge driving force in the shape and the direction of that culture and that civilization. But Bitcoin is the hope that I believe can drive that change in the right direction. And it becomes more and more apparent to me, the more and more I study Bitcoin, that education is among the most important factor right now. Education, get the signal out there, informing people and equipping them with the knowledge and the resources that they need to get on the mission.
I'll jump in and just keep it succinct in the sense of, as far as like how Bitcoin allows or enables fighting back of this wokeism bullshit, especially in the military, is that very simply because of its uncensorability, unseizability, the security of the SHA-256 and everything, the money or the value that is kept stored in Bitcoin, I ignore the money part, the value that is kept stored in Bitcoin, the time and the energy and the effort that is kept there and protected and custodied, ends up becoming fuck you money, regardless of the actual dollar value of that asset, right? Because if you have a savings or a nest egg that literally can't be taken from somebody, that gives you a level of freedom and optionality and confidence that you can literally stand against like all this bullshit. It's just like, oh, you say you're going to kick me out of the military because I'm not taking the jab, or I'm not taking part in this wokeism bullshit.
Yep.
Okay, well, I've got a savings here in Bitcoin that you can't take or remove from me. So fine, kick me out. Like, great, do it. I challenge you. And how many? A few people probably got booted out for that, but it's just it changes the game theory and allows for a more healthy shifting of the game board.
Yeah.
Amen.
Jordan, what do you got, man?
So ultimately what I have to say is I don't want to fucking talk about this woke shit at all, ever. Like, seriously. I mean, we all understand that it's bullshit. So why are we even feeding it any fuel, right?
It's too late. We just did it for an hour and a half.
We did.
How do you feel about like tonight's podcast?
We'll just delete it.
Yeah, just fucking delete this whole fucking thing. No, we really didn't. What we talked about was fucking man shit and like accomplishing missions, getting on the mission, and we tied it back to Bitcoin a little bit. But mostly we just talked about like experiences in the military, right? That's really what we talked about because nobody really wanted to fucking touch this bullshit woke BS that we all understand is just undermining everything, right? And there's so many ways to talk about it that we hit on it. We hit on like how the U.S. federal government has operated for the last 200 years under the Monroe Doctrine and how, you know, yeah, maybe if some shit pops off in Central or South America, like, and we can't do anything about it, it's a signal for the fall of the empire. Well, whether we can or can't, maybe we can control this empire for a little bit longer, or this hemisphere for a little bit longer. That doesn't mean anything. Like, it's fucking over. And I really just want people to stop talking about like the woke shit. Like, yes, it's fucking infiltrated the military. We know that. All right, it's done. So's the US dollar. Like, there's so many aspects of the empire that has propped it up for so long that we all understand is done. And honestly, like, we're feeding more fuel to the fire talking about the woke shit. And we honestly, what I think, like, we want to talk about solutions. We need to stop talking about the woke shit. It's done. We all know it's failing. We see, like, look around and it's fucking failing. So just like we've talked about it, we've touched on it. It's like it's a tent pole we had to touch, and we all understand that it's not going anywhere, and it's just the downfall of the empire, which is kind of good for Bitcoin in a sense. But we don't want it to be bad for America, because we separate like the government of the United States from the people of America. And I also say that understanding, like, we're Bitcoin veterans. We want to reach to fucking veterans all across the world. But like it or not, America is still kind of like the leader of the world. A lot of countries look towards it. Maybe not anymore. Maybe not if things start splintering off. So I think we just need to, as a society or as a culture, maybe within Bitcoin, move away from fucking wokeism. And just realize it's a stupid fucking fad that has already died out. Let's all move on. And let's talk about the next step.
Okay. So Jordan gave us the subject, and then he railed against it at the very end. Just like the government. It's like, here's the problem. Now we're going to address the problem and solve it with an even shittier problem. No, we won't talk about wokeism. Closing out, in terms of what does this all mean in terms of Bitcoin? I will definitely tell you for a matter of fact that I never, ever gave a shit about any of this kind of stuff when they were sending me into combat, which I will tell you, like with the op tempo that we were on in 2003 and 2004, it was almost a nightly affair, right? Like, listen, we're going here, we're doing this shit, strap up and let's go. And every time you left the fucking wire, and sometimes even when you were in the wire, like you were in jeopardy, right? And I didn't give a damn who was pegging who. I didn't give her who was hooking up in 104 fucking degree, porta-johns. I didn't care who was in command. I didn't give a shit about any of that kind of stuff. What I cared about was like how much of a chance do we have of coming back here and being alive? And none of that kind of stuff mattered. So to translate that into Bitcoin, what does Bitcoin do? Well, Bitcoin is skin in the game. It literally is this thing that cuts out cancers. It cuts out anything that is extra that doesn't need to be there, or at least questions it and says, listen, if our objective in this case in terms of the military is to be a force of lethality, then what are we doing to make that the most lethal force possible that we're putting forth out there? And that's not what wokeism does. Wokeism does the opposite of that. It doesn't ask the question and literally goes in 180 degrees in the opposite direction and says, we're actually going to do all these things and we don't give a shit what it costs. That is the most MMT fiat counterfeit class thing you could possibly do in terms of a military. And I think on a Bitcoin standard, if there is a military, what you're looking at is a very refined, very, much like the Marine Corps infantry, for that matter, is they don't have state-of-the-art shit. You've got state-of-the-art people who are never quit, super lethal with just a rifle type of guy, right? And then can make wonders happen when given other resources, because he's been starved to death of what could have possibly been. So when he finally gets his hands on something, it's like, this guy can rip through God knows how many things. He's got force multipliers at his fingertips just because he's well trained. And that's what I think a real quote unquote defense force looks like under a military, under a Bitcoin standard, is you've got all the lethality and a very small fraction of the woke bullshit that is going on in today's military stratosphere. So I think that's kind of where we'll wrap up the show. Thanks to everybody out there in Twitter Spaces. I want to take a moment here real quick and thank both Swan Bitcoin, who has helped me obviously with what we're doing in this space. If you guys need anything in terms of understanding, we are offering a premium now, right, Alex? If you want to sign up, you can contact both myself and Alex. If you're a military member, if you're EMS, if you're a veteran, we have a premium membership ready for you guys. And really, thank you all for tuning in. If you want to spread that around, and to the guys over at Fountain FM that are going to help us make more inroads with Bitcoin. If you're listening on Fountain FM, you want to interact with us, we'll start reading the comments there as well. And I know things are slow over at Fountain right now. We're working on it, but great organization. And at the end of it, it's one of those organizations in Bitcoin that's doing some pretty amazing things to help people understand and get on the mission. So without any further ado, we're going to conclude the show. Thank you guys for all tuning in. Mike Hobart, Gabe, Jordan, Alex Stanzik, thank you guys so much. When you're out there, remember, Bitcoin, don't shit coin. And we'll catch you next here Wednesday, 7 p.m. We'll see you then. Peace.
Midgets.
Midgets.